We can all admire a beautifully grown wisteria when it's in full flower on the front of a lovely house or in a pergola, but to be honest, a lot of us struggle to get them to grow really well, and the key to success is to make sure that you get a good variety, that you plant it in full sun, perhaps against a sunny wall or a west-facing wall, and don't let it get away from you. So constantly keep on with the pruning, and you too could enjoy beautiful flowers like the potential that's coming on this lovely specimen. Now, full sun goes without saying. These are climbing plants that in the wild grow up to the top of trees where they get full sun, and in that full sun they then start flowering their socks off. So give them full sun to start with and they'll do it from day one. So that's key to success. As far as soil goes, they like any soil as long as it's not really bone dry sand. If there's no goodness in the soil whatsoever and you try and grow a wisteria, it will never flower and it'll never settle in. But every other soil type, quite happy. And remember, if you're going to plant them against a wall, whether it be a house wall or a garden wall, make sure that you come out about 30 to 45 centimetres, that's a foot to 18 inches away from the structure, because at the base of the wall, the plant's roots could be in the rain shadow or they could be in all the rubbly rubbish at the bottom of the wall and not have a very good start in life. Other than that, they're quite happy. In the first few years after planting, you really want to get the plant to grow and to cover the space. So you train in the long vigorous shoots to make your framework, perhaps tying them into wires or into a trellis to cover the wall, or in this case onto a pergola. And it's a good idea to wrap the stems around the pergola when you're growing it so that you get some really nice old gnarled stems eventually. Once you've got that framework, you then cut all the side shoots back twice a year. So you do it once in the dormant season when the plant has dropped all its leaves. I usually do mine in around about October, removing those really long vigorous stems back to 2 or 3 buds from the base to the main framework, and then do it again after it's made its flush of growth in the spring and early summer. So in around about July, go in and all the long twangly shoots, cut them back to about 3 or 4 buds from the base in the summer, and then go back again in the autumn, winter, as I say, and cut them back further. But keeping it constrained is the key to success with wisteria. If you don't do it twice a year, it'll grow away from you and it really won't be wanting to flower. For wisteria to flower really well, you want to encourage a whole host of these little short stubs, because these are what will produce the flowers. And by pruning it regularly, twice a year, as we've mentioned, you can encourage more and more of these stubs to be produced. Once they start, they'll carry on producing flowers year after year after year. And you can see that this has gradually built up over the years to make a really stout little flowering spur. Absolutely ideal. Fortunately, wisteria don't really suffer from many problems. Sometimes if they get really dense and you get lots and lots of soft growth, then sometimes you'll see mildew will take over, particularly when the plants are drought stressed. Other than that, this plant is suffering from one particular big round fat feathery pest, if you like, and that's pigeons, who bundle in and hop all over, and because these little developing flower buds are so sweet with nectar inside them, they'll come and peck them off. So you'll find some bits like this bit where they've sat and broken this flower off completely, or you'll find other bits like here where they've sat on the branch up here and they've pecked the individual flower buds off and just left a few at the end. So unfortunately, the only thing to do is to go out every so often and go shoo, and hopefully that will make the worst of it for them and they'll move on. But that's really the only problems wisteria has. Now, there are an enormous number of really good varieties of wisteria, but a lot of the cheap ones that you'll buy are likely to be seed raised, or unknown varieties, and in which case they could take 8, 10, even 15 years to come into flower. But if you go for one of the more expensive, slightly more expensive but named varieties, you'll be sure to get flowers pretty quickly. Now this variety is a really good one. It produces short stubby racemes of flower, but the flowers are really big and it's guaranteed to flower early in its life. It's a type of wisteria called Wisteria brachybotrytis shoabeni, and it has beautiful lilac pink flowers. But if you want the really long pendulous racemes, there's a great one called Black Dragon that's worth looking out for. But as I say, look out for a reputable company and you'll find some named varieties that will flower early on in their life. Now I'm going to plant this really lovely wisteria here so it grows up and over this shed. It'll really cover this, to be honest, in just a few years, so I need to keep on top of the pruning, and to get it started in the right direction I'm going to train it onto this trellis, which I've just got propped up here for the time being. Once I've got it planted, I'll screw the trellis in place. And I've dug out a hole, a really deep hole, because wisterias, you can see, tend to be grown in deep pots, so they need a deep root run to get them started. And I've soaked this pot in water before I come to plant so that the pot will simply slide off really easily. If it's a dry compost inside the pot, you'll find that the roots will be damaged more as you try to take the pot off it, but it's slid out really easily there. And I'm just going to offer that into the hole to make sure I've got the depth right, which is just about okay. I'm just going to turn that round so that the top growth is growing in the right direction when it comes to training it in. And then I'm going to use some root grow. So this is a proprietary mycorrhizal fungi, comes with its own little scoop, and you can just scatter some of that mycorrhizal fungi in the edge of the planting hole, around the edge, so that it sticks to the sides of the planting hole. And then also make sure that you get some so that it adheres on the side of the wet root ball. So as I say, it's another reason for wetting the root ball, is so that the mycorrhizal fungi will stick to it. Now these will adhere to the roots, make an intimate connection with the roots and help its establishment and extend the root growth of the plant. The mycelium will grow out from the mycorrhizal fungi, connected to the roots, and go off exploring for nutrients and water and help the roots develop really strongly. So it's worth investing in this because it really works. So once we've done that, we're then in a position to put the root ball back into the hole and then just simply fill in with that soil that we've dug out of it, just firming it in so that you make sure that you get rid of any air pockets. You could do this with your foot if you were wearing Wellington boots, just to make sure that you firm it really well in. And that plant needs a good watering, but it will establish very quickly and start to grow. So keep on top of it with the pruning and you'll soon have a glorious wisteria to be proud of. So if you want the archetypal climber for the front of your house or on a pergola or fence or wall, go for a wisteria, whether it's the great long floribunda types with those huge great long racemes, or the stout chunky sinensis types that really pack a punch with their flowers. These climbers are unbeatable.